Elena, tell us about your first deal. It was a long road to get it done, but we finally got it across the finish line. Tell us from start to finish, what did that look like for you?
Yeah, sounds good. So I had been listening to the DealMachine podcast. I found you all through Bigger Pockets, actually. And I actually signed up for Ryan's mentorship because I've heard about him through the podcast. And so I signed up for the mentorship, and then Ryan kind of gave me the whole thing on like how it's gonna go. So I signed up for the DealMachine app and started doing driving for dollars. So I started driving around my area over here, sending out 1,000 postcards a month. So I was doing the 250 a week. But my first deal didn't actually come from the postcards. I did get phone calls back from postcards, but while I was doing that, I was also, monitoring Facebook and stuff. And I saw a guy posted that he said like, "Hey, any wholesalers out there? I got a deal." So I just kind of casually responded, and he's like, "Okay, here's the deal." And he pretty much had a deal. He had a buyer. He just did not know how to do the paperwork. I guess he was new, so he had no idea how to do it. So I was like, "Yeah, I'll help you out." And we negotiated on a percentage, and I was like, "Okay." So we met up, got the contract signed with the seller, and then I guess the first time he wanted to make sure I was real and everything, so we met up. But after that, we just did everything to DocuSign. So I sent out all the documents to the buyer, to the seller, and then everything was signed. It took a while for that one to close, just because the seller inherited it from their family member, and there were a lot of like death certificate requirements and making sure this person actually inherited it and stuff. So finally it closed, and I made $5,000 just by doing some paperwork.
Wow.
It is my favorite thing, because we talked about in our weekly meetings, we talked about making sure we are talking to many people. Tell everybody what you're doing, and the ability that you saw to step in and help close a deal, because you're already in the midst of learning how to do all these things, and it's like, oh, I can fill that gap for this guy and make $5,000 on a deal. And really, other than hooking him up with the contract and walking him through that, there wasn't a whole lot that you had to put into it. And getting $5,000 on your first closing is a game changer.
Definitely. Yep.
Tell us what you did before you found wholesaling. What were you doing? What was your 9-to-5 job?
Yeah. So I have been working as a mechanical design engineer for a company. And I've been kind of antsy about, getting out and doing my own thing, just because I've always been entrepreneurial. So I'm always doing side hustles. And when I heard y'all's podcast, I don't know, something just clicked. I was like, I think this is what I need to do, or at least try to do. So yeah, I'm still at my 9 to 5, but yeah, I'll be out of here by the end of this year.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
What are some of the other side hustles that you tried?
So I'm still doing it, Amazon FBA. So I've been doing what they call retail I do more online arbitrage, but I started with a little bit of retail, where you go to the stores, look for things that are on sale, and then you sell them on Amazon. But right now I focus a lot more on online, just because I find it easier. I can buy bigger quantities. I don't have to physically go to a store. Everything can be done from my phone, from my computer. Yeah, so Amazon. And then in the past, I've also done just like flipping things on Facebook. My husband was also kind of pretty entrepreneurial, because he used to do car flipping. So both of us would go to like auctions and we'd buy cars, and he'd fix it up. I don't fix anything car wise, and then we'd resell them. So a lot of random different things.
What intrigued you about real estate? Like, why real estate?
So honestly, I don't remember how I got there, but could be. I mean, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, but it's been a while since I read that. So I felt like I've always known, but maybe it came from Rich Dad Poor Dad. I just always known that I just want to buy rental properties and rent them out. And then I started going to meetups when I started listening to Bigger Pockets, and keep listening more and more Bigger Pockets. So it's a way for me to be able to make somewhat passive income, and be able to leave my job and have freedom of time, basically. So I was looking for something that can, get me income a little bit more passively and give me freedom of time. So that's why I landed on real estate.
I was really thrown for a curveball when you said your deal was actually from someone else who hadn't done a deal, and you hadn't done a deal either.
Yep.
But it sounds like you had the expertise behind you that gave you confidence, Ryan,
Yes,
to help this guy with his paperwork.
absolutely. If I wouldn't have joined his mentorship, I would not have done that.
Yeah, that's amazing. You're like, I got this in the bag because Ryan's in my back pocket.
Yeah.
So what was the percentage you negotiated with this guy? You got 5,000. Did he also get 5,000?
No, actually, I only got 10% of his deal. He made $50,000 and I got 10% of that. So
What?
yeah, so I'm not sure exactly the details, but I think the seller was like his family or something like that. So maybe that's why he was getting a bigger cut. I'm not really sure the details.
What was the Facebook group that you were in that you found this deal in?
I think it was just like Knoxville real estate investors or something like that.
Okay. And you live in Knoxville?
Yes, I do. Greater Knoxville area.
That's good that was it that guy or the seller that wanted to meet up and make sure you were a real person?
It was that guy because I was communicating with him. So yeah. I guess he just, wanted to make sure. I mean, he didn't say that, of course, but that's my impression. Because after that, he was like, all right, let's just do everything online,
What does like wholesaling get you excited about that the FBA was like lacking? Because obviously you're still doing it, but you seem like you're more interested in the real estate thing. Is that just because it's new, or is there some different aspect that you're excited about?
Yeah, I think it's just, it's kind of, both are kind of arbitrage, right? Even on the wholesaling side, you're kind of getting a deal and then you're kind of selling it at a higher price. Amazon is kind of the same way, except you need way more products to sell before you make the kind of money you can make with one house. And then the other thing is I've always wanted to eventually, own rental properties for the passive income. So with wholesaling, it's a way for me to find the deals for myself as well. Not just, initially, of course, it'd be a good way for me to get some extra cash, replace my income, and then slowly use that money to acquire myself some rental properties. And that's why wholesaling, because I want to acquire properties for myself so I can transition to having more passive income. Versus FBA, I have to constantly find more and more things to sell. If I don't find things to sell, I don't make any money, which is similar to wholesaling. If you don't find anything to wholesale, you don't make any money.
So how's the mail going? Because you've been sending out mail now for a little while.
Yeah.
This is a fun story, and I'm a part of this mail journey. So go ahead, but it's an interesting story.
Yeah, for sure. So I started with Ryan, and then within the first week, I sent out my 250 postcards, and then I guess once the mail reaches people, I start getting some phone calls, and then I'm constantly sending. So every week I go out, I add my properties, and pretty much every day, like once I'm done adding properties, I just go ahead and send out the mail. I don't really wait till the end of the week or anything. And I'm sending out postcards, and the first batch I started getting some phone calls, but after a while, like it's been like 2-ish months, like no phone calls. I get like one random postcard back in the mail with somebody like with a written note saying, that oh, we're not interested in selling. And it was very weird. And then one day I get one of the postcards come back to my house, like return mail, just because I guess it didn't get sent to the person. And I look at the postcard and my phone number, the postcard was kind of messed up. My phone number was missing from it. So this whole 2 months, I've been sending out postcards, getting discouraged because I'm like, nobody's calling, like nothing's happening.
We were both
I don't know.
Both of us were discouraged. I'm like, it works, I promise.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's not working, but it does work.
How did that happen?
I guess something was wrong with the printing side on the DealMachine thing, because I was just, it was all set up and my phone number was supposed to be there, but like I don't know, when it printed out, like it was blocked out by like a white box for some reason.
Oh my gosh. Did we reimburse you for that?
Yes, y'all did.
Oh, we did. Okay.
Yeah. So after the whole 2 months, after figuring out all that, so I contacted DealMachine and Ryan helped me out, getting like pretty much mail credits back. And I resent out all those postcards that I thought, had my phone number on it. But yeah, as soon as I sent those out, I sent about almost like 1,500 in one go or something like that. I started getting a lot of phone calls coming in.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yes. Yeah. So it definitely works because I got a lot of phone calls. I got a couple appointments scheduled, went out and looked at a couple houses. I still got some that the people are still interested in selling, but they haven't been able to show me the house. So I'm still working on some of them. Yeah, I haven't done a deal yet, but I have made some offers and done some appointments through those for sure.
What's the most nerve-wracking part of the whole process?
I guess making a super low offer. I hate that. Like I don't know, it's hard for me. I like a more like kind of win-win situation, and I feel like it's not really win-win when I have to make such a low offer. So it's hard for me to do.
Yeah.
But
and to support what you're saying in our mentorship, it's one of the things that I've repeated nonstop is when you're making an offer, if you don't feel uncomfortable making the offer, then you're probably making an offer that's too high. And it's not because you don't want it to be win-win. It's more that you don't know where, like if they say I need 50 and if the numbers don't make sense, to me, it's always don't start at the highest you can go because you need to have room to negotiate the deal.
Yeah.
That's where it always comes into play. Like, don't just start at, a lot of people will run the maximum allowable offer and then that is their starting point. And it's like, you start there, you're not going to be able to come back down. And it's always worked if you just come at a point that's low and even explain to the seller, look, this is going to be a very hard offer for me to give you. It's uncomfortable, but I'll tell you why I'm here. And then I've always said, if it gives you the jitters, you're in the right spot. You're in the pocket. That doesn't mean that that's where you're going to end. That's just your starting point. And so even for us, it always makes me pause a minute to when I know what my offer is, like, okay, hard swallow. And my number is 25,000. They'll say no, or they'll say, and surprisingly, sometimes I give that offer and sometimes they say yes.
Yeah.
So that's where sometimes that it works out, but we're never intending for it to not be a good deal for either party. We want it to be a good deal for both sides. We want to make sure that you're putting yourself in a winnable position.
Yep. Makes sense. Because I mean, realistically, if the number works for them and they get out of the property that may have just been a problem to them, then is. Yeah, it's a good solution for both sides for sure.
Also, I don't know if you've done any like rental property rehabs, but you, I mean, I always spend more than what my estimate is on that.
That's true. Yep.
And it's like hard to think about that because we want to think we're good at estimating, but all this stuff always comes up like, oh man, now the sewer is needing to be replaced, and that costs like $10,000, and they can't fix it for another month. So now I'm missing like a month of rent, you know, and then if I'm borrowing money to hold the property before I can finish it and refinance it, well, that's another, you know, $2,000 in interest payments. So that's another big reason why that low offer is just so important for it to come up with a profitable deal for you at the end.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's definitely true.
So, all right, glad the mail's working. You're getting calls back, and that's like a new thing, right? It seems like you just recently started getting the calls coming in again. Are you answering the phone yourself?
Yes, currently I am answering the phone myself. I'm talking to the sellers. You get a lot of phone calls where people just tell you, I don't want to sell, stop sending me postcards. And it's discouraging, but you know, you just kind of move on, and there's people that call you that actually want to sell, and they're not just calling you to say, I don't want to sell.
What are you and Ryan talking about on your weekly call?
A lot of different things, just depending on what's going on. So like if I've had, you know, somebody contact me interested in selling, we might go through the house, like figure out what's a good maximum allowable offer, you know, talk about maybe look at the pictures, talk about, you know, just different things that that we can, you know, talk with the seller with. And then he gives, you know, just advice on what's next, what are our next steps, how to not to say convince the seller, but, you know, like pretty much questions to ask them, or how to talk to them basically. Nice. And we kind of just go through any roadblocks, anything specific that I need help with. We go through that.
Cool. Do you have social media by chance? I'd love to follow you.
I do. Yep. You can follow me at ELENARAJAN.
Okay, awesome. Ryan, do you have any more questions or things? Or Elena, do you have any more things that you want to share before we sign off?
No, I think the main thing is consistency, because when you quit sending the mail, you quit getting the phone calls.
Yeah.
So yeah, consistency is definitely important.
Thanks for leaving us with a great lesson of consistency. And I look forward to talking with you again when you close your next deal.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.